Hello everyone, and welcome to this video where we're going to be building a UniCon cargo container carrier that's going to be able to load a variety of different vehicles. This is going to be something that's going to be super useful and supplemental to any UniCon system, and you could see it. I'm standing on it right here. Now, before I go into any more details, you have to watch the video for that, I just want to say that, of course, the UniCon container is intended to be very light and easy to transport by hand, by simple forklift and stuff like that, but there are cases where having a loader, especially one that can go up and down, are useful. Full disclosure, I got this idea by using the photos from the AirISO cargo system, and I was looking at this thing right here and I thought, okay, how can I make something like that but make it my own and make it useful for the UniCon system? Now, one, I guess, limitation, I suppose, of this system, while it looks incredible, it requires that the plane be at a constant height, right? You load this bottom platform, you push it up to the plane, and it is a uniform height. Now, of course, maybe in real life, that's how it is. I'm not an expert by any means of the real life systems, okay? So don't come at me for that. I'm just using my imagination here and what I know from the engineering world. But pretty much, like I said, this now is limiting to one size kind of height. Whereas my vision for this is to go to this height if you want to load a train, go to this height if you want to load a truck or whatever, this height for a plane. It just gives you a little bit more playability. And like I said, with my own experience in the construction industry, boom lifts and scissor lift, stuff like that, that's what this is inspired by. So when a boom lift or a scissor lift especially, the whole platform will raise up and down, allowing the person or whatever to gain height. So now in this case, this is the platform and it all goes up. Here we are with the first iteration of the UniCon platform. Now again, this one is heavily based off the AirISO version, and you can see here that it uses this fixed height of the platform there. What's going to happen is this platform I'm standing on slides up, clips onto this location, and slides into the plane. Now right away there's a few issues I see with this, mainly the direction of the sliding tracks. I don't want my primary axes, which is the single track, to be what loads the plane or train or whatever. I want it to go with these double ones, so that's going to get arranged. And we do have the problem with the height. So of course, this assumes that we have a fixed height for everything, which may not be the case. We may have a plane that's lower, higher, or a train or whatever. So to be able to use this creation fully versatilely with a lot of different things, it has to get arranged and adjusted. Now, to keep the idea and to keep some sort of cab, what if we use this spot here and put a seat in there actually? Something like this. So you could see now what I've done is place the seat all the way at the bottom, and this will now allow the platform to rise up above the seat. Like the hitbox you could see here is fairly low even, and then of course that becomes the driver's seat of the creation, and you have a very good sight line. I suppose there may be a clash and a problem here with loading low things such as trains, but we'll deal with that in a second here. So first of all, like I said, I want to swap out the axes, and I want to put my main one in this direction, and then my secondary or perpendicular axes will be in this direction here. So the idea, of course, is that you load a plane or train or whatever, and you'll load the container, the UniCon, onto this platform, and then from the platform, you'll push it in like this in the yellow direction, and then once it's on the plane or train or whatever, you'll slide it in its main axes, or the orange one right here. So that's kind of the idea. Now, like I said, there is a bit of a problem with this, but what I'm thinking of doing is actually putting a track like this with the linear base track like that, something like this, and then having a second platform right here. Now this will actually allow me to set a height for this one, and how it's going to work it's going to latch on to this like that. So once our main platform, the green one, connects with the blue platform, it will now be able to move as one, and then it can slide in and position itself on whatever it is we're trying to get into. Again, I guess the problem being that, is this height acceptable? Just spawning the train in real quick here, and we're gonna spawn it in the ground in the game. Now, first of all, it's sitting a little low because these wheels sink into the ground, but that still is too big of a difference. Like, you see these doors are positioned way too low for this platform to work with this creation. So in theory, we have to adjust it. And I guess that's the downside of things, but also that is design work. That's engineering for you folks. So when it doesn't work, back to the drawing board. Alright, I just deleted the front end and moved the wheels back here. Now this is looking a little more useful to us. So now what'll happen is you load your container in every which way, and then you position this up against the train and whatnot. Now we have to find out where I'll put the control cabin, but I'm not really thinking about that yet. I'm just trying to make this design kind of as smooth as possible. I've spawned in my rat forklift or loader, and I'm going to start taking its systems, putting them in here. So while it is big, it's not going to be any smarter than this. It's going to have a simple screen, a simple transmission forward and backward, and park, of course, and some systems. Now, I did end up putting the control cabin right here. You can see it's just the placeholder, and you're kind of blocked by this post, so this isn't ideal, and it's kind of sticking off the side, but I think that it wouldn't work because you couldn't really see what you're driving up to because of this. But we'll deal with that in a second. You can see now the system's on. We could put it in drive, and I don't think I've connected the drivetrain, but overall the system's there. I've put these lights and headlights on the exterior, and now you could drive it. So a little finicky and kind of steers fast, but you know, this thing, I guess I could limit the speed. That's one thing I can do, just there's no need for it to go this fast. But now the idea is there, and with all the wheels turning, you really can position yourself in every nook and cranny in order for the platform to connect. Before I go any further, I want to paint this thing because I think that it'll be nice. So we'll start off with a full kind of rat gray. You can see I sampled this color, and then I do want this arm or boom or whatever you call it to have yellow, just so it stands out a little bit, so it has the rat colors. And what you'll note is that on this boom I placed a winch. Now that the purpose of that winch is significant, because what you'll have is you'll have potentially UniCon containers sitting on the ground, and without using a forklift or something to get them onto your deck, you just use this winch. So you put the UniCon here, winch up, and it'll find itself on the deck. Now we'll get into the programming as well. I've added some instrument panel buttons, very simple systems, just to control the up and down mechanism of the track here. So that controls this thing that goes up and down. And you'll note there's two of them, so we can control the winch as well. So that's what I put on these buttons here. So we have the whole platform up down, we have the winch up down, and then of course we have the locking mechanisms on the front and side tracks. So this here and this here, those will be able to be locked, so you can actually pair up with whatever it is you're trying to connect to and move your cargo across. So let's test to see how this works. We'll open the doors of this, hop into the seat. Now, like I said, this was going to block us, so until you get really close you don't really see it. I guess now we do, and then we can push the platform up, oop, and turn on the front, and it should lock up. Oh, I see. I'm hitting the doors. Alright, back to the drawing board. So, what's going to have to happen is, I didn't foresee that, but probably move this out at least by 1, if not 2, just to give us a little bit more reach without the actual sides of this thing hitting into that train. And in addition to that, let's rotate this steering wheel so it sits like this, and you'll see that the advantage to doing that is that, yeah, of course you're looking forward at nothing, but if you turn, now you have a really nice sight line on the thing. So if you're turned like this, you can actually make your way to the train, and then once we open these doors and turn on our front locking track, push this up, it should lock into place. There we go. Yay. First test, and now we're locked. So that way you'd be able to slide in any cargo on or off. One thing I think I want to add is the ability to use my up and down arrow keys instead of these buttons, or in parallel with those buttons. Simple microcontroller adjustment up down from the seat, threshold, and or function. So now we actually can operate the up and down with the seat as well. Now let's give it a test. One other change I made is to put the grippers one up and one sideways and on the train as well. And of course we don't want the wide one, or like we don't want to have this not position us perfectly. So that's the whole point. The up and down one is what the this will use, and once we're at the perfect height, it'll stop us. So we have now 2 of them to position this platform to make it work. And you can see here I've added a rope, so let's attach the container to this handler, and now if we winch up, this thing will kind of just hopefully snap into place. Still holding that winch. Okay, we're up. Yep. Okay, nice. We're in. Power. The doors are open. And now, from the seat itself, I could raise this platform. Perfect. Front locking track, gear drive, and let's roll. So again, we got to position that right into that. Clipped. All right. Undo the rope. And now, once I release this container will also maybe want to slide off. So we just have to be cognizant of that. So if I undo the H4, and then I'm going to release the main track. So now it's only on its perpendicular track. And I'll want to turn on this. So once it drops on, you'll see we're going to push it in, and it's going to hit that main track and stop. Beautiful. And now what I can do is undo the main track, or undo the perpendicular track. And this should allow us to push it forward. Now with this new boxcar, actually, which already is live by the way, you have this little compartment and you can select slot 4. Now that's the button to release it, you'll see. So in theory that now should have its light off. So it's already I may have to reword that. This one is not released, whereas this one is released. So I guess this one is active now. And as long as the H4 connectors are on, which you can see they're not, but if I turn on the H4, you can see that this system, you do have to be a little finicky with this side panel, but there, it's in place. So you just used the loader to load up the UniCon into the train car. A quick revision here for enabling all of my slots. So now 4 and 5 should be engaged, meaning the lights should be off, so they're not released, and you can see here it's false for being released, whereas these green lights are on, meaning they are released. So a little maybe counterintuitive, but I didn't want to put a bunch of knots and things. Now you could release all of them in here, and you can see they're all green now, including the ones I've previously engaged. In the beginning of the video, I mentioned how I want this to work with trucks and trains and planes and everything. So this system now introduced, let's call it, a couple new standards to the UniCon system. Primarily on the left side of the main track is the sideways gripper, and on the right is the up-down. Whereas on the perpendicular, we have left, right, up, down. So they're just right off the tracks. And this system can now be repeated on a lot of different creations. So you can see here, I've repeated it for this truck. On the train, I've repeated it on the train. And actually, I did also add a little stopper for the door afterwards, because you see that the doors may move, but that doesn't matter. Point is, what you have now is a container that you can load up as such. And then once it's on the platform, I also did move this. So once we're sitting here, you can turn this on, you can winch up and watch where this goes. Now, the one kind of clash is that when you're loading an extra large or oversized UniCon container, your person is going to kind of interact with it, if that makes sense. They're going to be stuck inside it a little bit, but they should not glitch into it. Now, I may move this whole steering wheel, but I didn't want to move it just because I did find that the position of it is quite ideal for this type of action. Anyway, now that this is in place, we can put this thing in drive, and we can position us at the back of the truck. Now, may need some extra cameras or things because obviously I'm using third person, but in theory you'd probably want a buddy or someone. Now if I lock sidetrack, boom, we're locked, and then make my way back here. So what I can do is now I can release the H4 and I can release the side track in this case, and that will allow it to move in this direction. So we can grab it and pull it into the truck just like that. So here we are now in the cargo bed of the truck, and I do have to re-engage the H4 connectors, but let's move it to the front bay. Alright, there we go. Come. Boom. We're in. And the cab is here. So this is a new truck, not currently released. It carries 2 UniCon cargo, so it's a little bigger. But you see here, that is how the system works. So you get it in, and now you can transport it. Now if I slide it back onto the loader, of course we got to turn on one of these. So we previously had this released and this released. Now let's bring it back into position here, into the track. Alright, and now back on the seat, I can release the side track, bring us down a little, and let's move into position for the train. A little lower. Alright, turn on the front track, lock, boom, we're locked. Maybe I should put a button, but I don't think that any information transfers through these. So it would be nice to make like a beeping sound or some type of horn, air horn or whatever, but I think if I don't, it's fine. And now, same as last time, we just release the main track and this whole thing can be pushed in, just like that. Now this whole system still is kind of work in progress, mainly the size of the thing. So one downside I can predict is that obviously I'm able to jump off the platform here and jump back on quite easily. But what if we're trying to load like a second floor of a plane, or maybe my train car has two rows, two levels, if you will. And in that case, this will have to be quite high. So if we have it that high, you may end up in a situation where you fall off. So as an example, if I disconnect that and push this up all the way, so pretend I'm loading a second level, probably have to be even higher, but you fall off this, you may not be getting back on. So that is one downside I see to this system, and again, work in progress. I may come up with a solution hopefully soon before I release it. But yeah, this height doesn't quite work, and yeah, I do have a handle, so I suppose I could kind of push my character up, so that works too. But you definitely don't have a lot of space even to get on this side to then like undo it and push it. Anyway, that's for another time. The loader is pretty much complete, very useful, super happy with it, very cool system. Thank you all for watching. Stay tuned for more creations, stay tuned for more content, and a huge shout out to all of my supporters. First of all, to all of you for watching the videos, commenting, interacting, my whole Discord community, and a special shout out to the server boosters, the YouTube members. And remember, they get early access to videos, they get early access to creations such as this, so if you're interested, make sure you try to join, or make sure you at least take a look. Anyway, until next time, happy Stormworksing, everyone. For those of you still watching some extra bonus content, pretty much I adjusted the loader to give it a bit more functionality. I put some little ladders there, expanded the deck, and even though it pretty much fits just one single UniCon container, it is pretty well, the size is good for what it needs to do, but yes, it is compact. And I could not help myself but to try my original concept, which was a bigger loader that actually had 2 tracks, and when you lift this up, this clamps on and rises up or brings everything up. So this is still a work in progress. I just am now kind of developing it, but you could see here the way this works, and you could then release the platform from the one that I'm standing on currently, and then it drops back down. So that's something, there's a couple of quirks and things I got to work on here, but the overall idea is that first of all it's bigger, so you could see that right away. In addition to being bigger, we have the connectors on both sides, so for truck loading you could actually pull up on both sides. And probably my favorite part about this one is the fact that in addition to having this console here, you actually have a little console behind you for winching and bringing the platforms up. But you may have noticed when this is lifted, there's a bit of a space beneath here. So what I'm going to do actually is make this one diesel electric. So where the original one I showed you is fully electric and kind of works off charging, this one is going to be a little more self-sustained or self-sufficient, and what you'll be able to do is run the generator and you'll then pretty much end up charging the system up. But overall, the functionality is identical. It drives the same, albeit a little slower and a little heavier. But for that reason, you'd think it's going to be pretty stable and good for carrying cargo in and out of all kinds of creations. So hopefully that little extra content for those of you who stuck around. And until next time, happy Stormworksing, everyone.